I'm covering the game between Anish Giri and Baadur Jobava from round 1. And let's see what happened in this game on board 1. We had Caro-Kann and Giri chose advanced variation. Bishop f5 was the answer by Jobava, knight f3. And now e6. Typical move. Bishop e2, and now black can play more solidly. He can play knight d7, go for something like bishop g6, knight e7, knight f5, bishop e7, and then when he castles to push c5. It's a more passive approach, but it's more solid. Instead, he went immediately with c5, and now there's a danger in this line because the bishop is outside the pawn chain and he cannot go back to defend the queenside. Black is slightly lagging in development, and there's always some possibility of white crashing the center with c4, opening up, black not being able to develop on time. Anish plays bishop e3, just develops. Also, black had an opportunity to play queen b6 here, to target both d4 and b2. And here there's a really sharp line, something like knight c3, and if black takes on b2, knight b5, and now because of the danger of knight c7, black can play knight a6, but I don't think it's that good. It's much better to play c4 here to give up the rook, and in case of, let's say, rook b1 to capture on c2, takes, and after this to go back with the bishop. And this is a very complex position. After bishop c6, this knight is doomed to be taken, and black has 2 pawns for an exchange. Instead, he took on d4, and after knight d4, he went knight e7 to develop and also to protect this knight. And now knight f5 is not so good because after knight takes, bishop will get out, and also bishop on e3 is a target now. And if white moves it to, let's say, f4, then bishop c5 should be fine for black. So white finishes his development by castling. Black makes a big mistake here. He plays knight d7. This knight belongs to c6. And after a move like bishop b5, it's not so dangerous like in the game. He can play a6, and after takes c4. Black can continue with queen d7, and white is still slightly better, because black is still developing, and it's not so easy for him to do that. Probably next move is going to be queen a4, knight d2, rook c1, and I really prefer being white here. Instead, he went for knight d7, and now Anish plays g4. There's always some danger of getting this bishop trapped on g6. c4 was much stronger. Knight from e7 cannot still get to g6 or c6 because white will capture on f5, double the pawns, and make black's structure much weaker. If he takes on c4, then just knight a3 with the next knight c4. And in case of knight e5, to take on c4, and even though black is a pawn up, the next move is going to be bishop b5, and it looks really bad for black, because even if you go something like a6 to stop bishop b5, again I have queen b3, and I put rooks on d1 and c1, and queen will be under fire. Here also b5, let's mention, b5 doesn't work because of knight takes b5, and in case of ab, bishop b5, and now black cannot cover. He is losing his queen, or an exchange. And in case of knight c6, here bishop b5, rook c8, and queen a4 is very dangerous. Now, because of this pin, black doesn't have time to develop. If something like queen d7 happens, rook c1 continues the pressure along this pin, and it's really bad for black. Instead, he didn't punish it immediately. He plays g4 here. After bishop g6, he went for f4. Because now this c4 move is not so dangerous, because the bishop is already on g6. Knight can move from c6. It's not a big deal now. So f4 was played with the simple idea to push f5 next to trap the bishop. And now black goes knight c6. Better was just to play h5 here to try to break the kingside pawns. And now in case of f5 to capture on j6 to give up a piece, but on better conditions. For example, this bishop g4, queen h4, and after rook f2 to defend the h2 pawn, knight g5 would lead to a very good game for black. Bishop d6 is coming next, targeting the h2, and black might even push his pawns like f5, g5, and just castle queenside. Also here, if he tried knight b5 with the idea of knight d6, black can simply go knight c6, and after f5 to go bishop h7 now. And this is not so dangerous as it seems. White also has some troubles because e5 pawn is under attack. Also, if he tried bishop e4 to somehow escape this trap, then he runs into knight c3 and he's losing his bishop. Knight c6 is possible, but after taking, exchanging queen d4, black is eventually losing this pawn on e4. Or if black plays knight c5 to play this, and in case of some exchange, to capture, and now bishop e7 is impossible because of rook c4 and losing the c4 pawn. And rook c8 is just losing time because also it's possible to play something like b4 to kick this knight away and capture on e4. So h5 was the best move here, trying to give up the piece, but in the best possible circumstance. He went for this, and now first he takes, and f5. Knight e5 was the best, and after takes, knight d2 to develop, bishop d6. It's a better version from what happened in the game, because in the game white put his bishop on f4 and pinned this knight along the h2 b8 diagonal. In this case, if white plays bishop f4, queen b8 is very strong. And now the next move is going to be knight g4, which will be very unpleasant to meet. If you go something like rook f2, then knight g4. And in case of capturing, you can take, and take on d1. Black has a rook for 2 pieces, but also he has some extra pawns. He has 2 extra pawns, and it's not really pleasant. Instead, he went for queen b8 immediately, and now Anish took hg and bishop f4. And here he gave a check, king g2, and now he took on e5. Of course, here queen b2 would be too dangerous, opening the b file, because black wants to keep his king in the center and wants to keep his rook on the h file. And by castling he would not achieve much. White would simply win this. So he wants to keep his king in the center, and now after king g2 he takes on e5. He wants to keep his king in the center, and after king g2 he took on e5. And now Anish develops his last piece, knight c3, and now g5. With a really nice trap. If he takes on g5, now black has knight f3. And all of a sudden white is losing in this position. Because if he takes with the king, then rook h3 check. And the only square is g2, and now this checkmate is very nice. What else to do? If you go h3, then queen h2, king f3, and rook h3 with the checkmate. With knight f3 he's targeting h2 3 times, and it's really very strong. But instead he doesn't fall for this trick, he plays bishop g3, and now f6. He tries to strengthen his knight on e5, knight a4, and he goes c4. White really wants to open up the position. If black takes on c4, then queen d2 might happen, and just rook d1, and the position would open up. Now he just plays king e7, queen c2 was played, and now rook h6. He wants to double some pieces on the h file, but now Anish plays rook ac1. He's preparing to capture at some point on d5 and to open up the position. Queen h8, he took cd and rook f3. A very nice rook lift. If black takes on f3, white takes on d6 first. And black cannot recapture because of queen c7 checkmate. And if he goes to f7, then this is just 3 light pieces for a rook, which is too much material to handle for black. And also there's no attack on the h file. This bishop alone can hold the king side together. So instead he went for rook d8, But now white gets his activity with rook b3 and after rook d7 to cover the 7th rank. Now white is offering a trade with queen c8. Knight c5 now, forcing trades, because he cannot go back to d8, because this is the killer blow. And after king e8, bishop b5 would be a killer move. So here he had to take on c5. Also, if rook c7 happens, then e6 pawn is under fire and rook b8 is coming next. So bishop c5 is played, queen c5, king f7, and now queen c8 back. And black tried with a counterplay with queen e4, but now bishop f3 is very strong. And now if knight captures, the rook on d7 is hanging, so that doesn't work. Queen d4 by Jobava, and after bishop e5, queen d2, the only check left, and after king g1, black is simply 2 bishops down, and because the rook on d7 is hanging, and in this position he resigned. Thank you for watching, and have a nice day. Goodbye.